All right, it's 6:01. We're going to get started.
Sorry. We've confirmed that a quorum is present, so we'll move to item number 2, which is public comment. All requests that I've received to address the Planning and Zoning Commission will be taken during agenda item 4C, during that subject public hearing. So then we would move to item number 3, which is consent agenda.
All right, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, consent agenda passes. Four B.
Next, we'll move to 4A.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. This is an application for a specific use permit to allow for a temporary auto repair major use within the general commercial zoning district. RCAD property ID 11220, case SUP 26-001.
All up on your screens? Perfect. Good evening, P&Z Commission, City of Fate. My name's Robbie Highfield. I'm the senior planner for the City of Fate, and I'll be giving the staff presentation for the Mako Temporary Auto Repair SUP permit request, special use permit request, project ID SUP 26001. So this project's located at 2435 I-30, and the use currently exists. They currently intake Amazon vans. No heavy repair is done. Any of that occurs at the permanent Mako site on the south side of the highway. But the reason this is coming in front of you is their SUP was temporary, had a 2-year expiration date, and that's coming up. So they need to, in order to continue their operation, they need to come in and get another SUP, which is the request in front of you. The work happens in the existing building, which is on the west side. We're oriented west on your screens in this image. And the vans are stored in designated areas around the site, as also shown on this slide. So this is location on westbound I-30 frontage next to Spiral X. And it's currently a single lot with an existing structure, zone general commercial with an SUP, about 1,700 feet west of Ben Payne Road. So the approval criteria for an SUP are here written out. I'm just going to summarize them as we go through, but if we need to go back, just let me know and we can read them out in full. So the first criteria, does it meet the purpose of the zoning district? This property is zoned general commercial, which supports auto repair and service major, which this use is, if that project has an SUP. B, is it compatible with the surrounding area? This is an existing use. They're not changing what they're doing. This is purely to continue what they're currently doing. On top of that, there's also auto uses to the east and west of this site, so it fits in with the surrounding businesses. C, does it adequately mitigate traffic? Staff has some recommended conditions that we'll go over later that we are recommending as part of the site improvements. And D, does it contribute, enhance, and promote quality of life? By approving the SUP, we're allowing a longstanding business in Fate to continue their operations while their more permanent site for this particular use is being built out. And the conditions require the site to be maintained, which is a benefit for aesthetics if anyone's seen this site before the operations were around. E, is it in scale with the existing neighborhood, or would it be considered an existing scale? As mentioned, it's similar to the auto uses that surround the property, and they're not changing anything outside of just basic site improvements that we're requiring as part of conditions. So we find it to be in scale. And does it mitigate any adverse impacts due to access, parking, service areas, and traffic? There's minimal traffic going into the site. It's just the staff that work there and the delivery vans, or the delivery trucks dropping off the vans. As mentioned, any of the service occurs on the south side at that Mako site. So adversely impacting, there's going to be nothing on top of what already exists down there. So staff finds all those criteria to be met. Given that SUPs require public notice, so we sent out public notice within 200 feet, which was 6 properties, seen in yellow plus the project site. We didn't receive any responses as of yesterday at 3 p.m. and haven't heard any responses on this particular site since this presentation was put together. Because this use is just a continuation of what's already down there, we didn't do a physical analysis on it. And staff is recommending that this SUP be approved with conditions. Those conditions are as follows. Fence screening shall stay up and be maintained in good condition during the term of the SUP as determined by the administrator. 2, site-related traffic shall not track mud, dirt, debris from the subject property on the I-30 frontage road, and should excessive traffic occur as determined by the administrator, then the applicant/leasee shall place angular gravel, flex space, or other semi-pervious ground cover on the site to mitigate the tracking. And 3, the term of the SUP extension shall end January 30th, 2028, or the date of issuance of a certificate of occupancy or equivalent thereof for the off-site developments in the unincorporated Rockwall or Hunt counties, whichever occurs first. Bit of explanation on criteria 3 for context. Their permanent site isn't in Fade, it's in Rockwall or Hunt County. They're going between 2 right now. Once we receive notice that that site gets an SUP, if that occurs before the extension date, the SUP will expire. That's it. Can take any questions now.
The applicant is actually out of state right now, so they are not able to attend tonight's meeting.
Yeah, so I can take any questions now.
Board have any questions?
Hey, Robbie, I have one.
Yep.
Do we know how far along they are in the, like the permanent building? Because my question is like, can we extend for longer than 2 years, or is that mandated by code?
I have not had any contact, but I know Ryan has.
Yeah, so I've been in extensive conversations with Mr. Hollatz, who's the owner of the Mako Rockwall. He was working on a site in unincorporated Rockwall County for the last 2 years. So even as he obtained the original temporary SUP, and it was always intended to be a temporary allowance, he was working on getting site approval from the county. They had some hiccups as far as the county's requirements and his needs to operate the site. So it actually took them the 2 years to get to the point where the county and the property owner reached agreement. In the meantime, however, because he felt kind of the urgency of getting a permanent solution so that he could move this operation off-site, he acquired a piece of property in Hunt County too. And so, different group of people you're dealing with. And so he's actually working on both. I think at this point, he still is further along on the Rockwall County piece. And the last time he and I spoke, he felt like January 2028 was plenty of time for him to get all of that, taken care of. I said, tell me clearly, once you get a CO on the Rockwall County property, is this done? And he said, yes, it's done. So I think we're giving him enough runway to get the job done on those other sites, one or the other. And then at that point, he would move this entire operation to one of those sites. However, importantly, all of the point of sale is still going to be through the Fate Rockwall site, Fate Mako site. So even though the operation, the activities are going to be on that other location, all point of sale is still going to be through the main Mako business.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank you, Robbie.
Perfect.
All right, since we don't have a applicant presentation, it is 6:12. Open up the public hearing.
I have no forms for this subject item.
All right, so it is 6:12. I'll close the public hearing. Anything the board wants to discuss? Take a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, oh, I need my glasses on, I can't see. Approve SUP 26-001 with staff conditions.
I'll second.
All right, motion passes. On to item 4B.
Okay, agenda item 4B, this is a zoning change from unzoned to agriculture on 11 newly annexed properties. This case number is ZR 26-001.
Evening, P&Z, City of Fate. My name's Robbie Highfield. I'm Senior Planner for the City of Fate, and I'm giving the staff presentation for the post-annexation zoning requests, project ID ZR 26001. So this one's slightly different than the normal zoning requests you've seen, but it's the same process, which is why we're here. This is a straight zoning request from unzoned to agriculture on 11 properties that were recently annexed by the city. And annexed properties require zoning. So because we do zoning by ordinance, they need to go through the P&Z and through city council to get that ordinance. Now, even though we're going through zoning, we don't typically see a zoning case to agriculture, but because in Article 3, the zoning districts in the UDO states agriculture is the default zoning, that's why we're changing it to agriculture to formally recognize that zoning district and those zoning standards. So here are the locations. We've got, I'm just going to name out the parcel IDs, 10359, 10893, 11195, 11222, 11227, 12197, 51577, 83531, 83532, 90314, and 91085. So approval criteria, since it's straight zoning, it's A, does it meet the comprehensive plan and other adopted plans? Does it meet the character of the surrounding neighborhood? Are there any other factors required or allowed by Texas law and case law to consider? So as I mentioned, the UDO Article 3, subsection 3.2.2 is the agricultural zoning standards, and it states holding zoning, this makes agriculture the holding zoning when a property is first annexed. And because the UDO is a supporting document to the comprehensive plan and is what we use to help implement the comprehensive plan, staff finds criterion A to be met. Criterion B is not actually applicable here because that criteria character of the surrounding area isn't really a factor when we're looking at annexation, because all we're doing in this case is giving those properties the zoning standards they're supposed to follow. And it's essentially a procedural process that just requires y'all and the council. So criterion B is not applicable. Criterion C, the local government code, that's what LGC is, section 211 authorizes cities to establish zoning, including properties post-annexation. And so this is why the city is bringing this case forward to meet LGC section 211 standards. So that meets criterion C, meaning criterion C is met in staff's opinion. So each one of these parcels received public notice. Rather than showing you 11 maps, we just put those counts into the table. 15 notice, you can see those here. We can go over each one if you want during your discussion. Wrong way. Because it's more procedural, we're just giving it standards. We didn't do a fiscal analysis on these since none of them, they're not coming with a development project right now. Not to say a project couldn't come in the future, but as we stand today, we do not have development projects. So staff's recommending approval of ZR 2601 and can take any questions you have. And we're the applicant in this case, so it's just us.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm just curious, are some of these like non-ag? So will we see these again like in a couple months' time, or are they all kind of ag as stated?
Yeah, so it's possible that we see some of these again. The annexed properties on these stars, some of them are more rural. You can see that first one, which was 10359, is way out on 548. Don't suspect anything to come in there. That's kind of a weird place for development to be. But you can see there's a cluster out on 66 and Stodge Hill. It's completely possible, given that's a hot intersection, that sometime down the future a project come through and either one of those parcels or all of those parcels get zoned. But as of now, we have no active projects, no requests for it.
Thanks, Robbie.
I'd like to add one more thing. There is one example, at least, that where the property being, that was annexed and is being now zoned for the first time, does have a single-family home on it. And so anything that's already there is going to be considered a legal non-conforming use if it's not in conformance with the agricultural zoning standards. Single-family homes are, so we have nothing to worry about there. But as Robbie indicated, this doesn't preclude them from coming in on their own later on to change the zoning to something that would support a future project.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie.
Cool.
So I have more of an administration question. So as we go through on this, are you going to do a staff summary for each of these?
No, that was all of them. So if you've got individual questions, you can, I've got the map up, point at a star, we can go over, but
Okay.
it'll all be one.
So we've got our staff summary done, so now it's going to be a public hearing for each and every one of these, then, correct?
An individual public hearing for each one.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
And-
So I don't know if you want me to read aloud each one of these items for the public hearing before you open them? I could read aloud just the agenda item number and then the RCAD property
Please
ID
do.
number for
Yeah.
each one. Then we can open the public hearing, take action, and move to the next one. Does that work? Okay. So that we'll start with, excuse me, 4B1, which is conduct a public hearing and consider action on RCAD property ID 10893. And I have no forms for this item.
All right. And so 621, we're going to close the public hearing.
And then we would consider any action for that parcel.
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah, we've got to vote on that. Take a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the zoning request for property ID 10893 as part of ZR 26-001.
I'll second it.
We have a second. All right, motion passes.
Okay, so now we will move to 4B2, which is property ID number 51577.
And it is 6:22. We'll open up a public hearing.
And I have no forms for this item.
All right, so 6:22, we'll close the public hearing and consider taking a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve zoning request for 51577.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I think we're still missing one. There we go. All right, motion passes.
Okay, we move to 4B3, which has two ARCAD property ID numbers, first being 91084 and the second one being 90314.
It is 6:23, open up a public hearing.
I have no forms for this item.
All right, it's 6:23, we'll close the public hearing. Consider taking any action or take a motion to approve.
I would like to make a motion to approve the zoning change request for ARCAD property IDs 91084 and 90314.
I second.
We got our second? I'm missing two more votes. There we go. Motion passes.
Next will be item 4B4, which is ARCAD property ID 12197.
It is 6:24 and open up a public hearing.
I have no forms for this item.
All right, 6:24, we'll close the public hearing. Take a motion.
Make a motion to approve zoning request 12197.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion passes.
Next is 4B5, which is ARCAD property IDs. There's two. First will be 11195, and the other is 83531.
All right, 6:25 and open up a public hearing.
I have no forms for this item.
All right, 6:25, we'll close the public hearing. Consider taking a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve zoning request for 1195 and 83531.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion passes.
Item number 4B6, ARCAD property ID number 11227.
All right, open up a public hearing. It is 6:26.
I have no forms for this item.
All right, it is 6:26 and closing the public hearing. Consider a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve the zoning change request for ARCAD property ID 11227 as part of the ZR 26-1 zoning change request.
All right, take a second.
Second.
Motion passes. Next is Agenda Item 4B7, which is RCAD Property ID Number 83532.
All right, 627, going to open the public hearing.
I have no forms for this item.
627, going to close the public hearing. Consider taking a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve zoning request 83532.
All right, need a second?
Second.
Motion passes.
Next is 4B8, RCAD Property ID Number 10359.
It's 627, open the public hearing.
I have no forms for this item.
627, going to close the public hearing. Consider taking a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning request for 10359.
All right, second.
I'll second.
Motion passes.
Next item, 489, RCAD Property ID Number 11222.
It is 628, open the public hearing.
I have no forms for this item.
All right, 628, close the public hearing, and we'll consider taking a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the zoning change request on RCAD property ID number 11222.
Need a second?
Second.
One more. There we go. Motion passes.
Next agenda item is Agenda Item 4C. This is an application for a zoning change request from agriculture to planned development to develop a master planned community with single-family residential and school uses. Case number ZR 25-012.
Just one moment, let me get it to full size here. Lovely. Well, I do want to thank the members of the audience for getting through that last procedural process. We just had to get that kind of out of the way, and we could focus on this next item, but thank you for your patience. Okay. All right, so I will be giving the staff presentation for the Crenshaw Preserve Plan Development. My name is Ryan Wells. I'm the Director of Planning and Development Services here at the City of Fate. This is going to be project ID ZR 25012. So this is a zoning change. The requested change is from agriculture, which is the current zoning designation, to a planned development with the purpose of developing a large lot, single-family development. The total acreage under this request is 696.6 acres. It's across 9 lots. The plan shows 460 single-family homes on lots of 3/4 of an acre or greater. There are 7 phases identified in the concept plan, and there are about 168 acres of open space and floodplain that will remain undeveloped as part of this project. There are also 2 future school sites, one for a middle school and one for an elementary school, encompassing in total 51.6 acres of the property. And so this essentially is a joint project application between the developer and the Rockwall ISD. The developer has a certain level of control over some of the property, and the Rockwall ISD actually owns 2 of the parcels subject to this zoning request tonight. So the project also includes a significant extension of the public infrastructure. This includes a northward extension of North Bend Payne, a westward extension of Prince Lane, and also a westward and kind of eastward extension of North Country Lane. There would be public water lines being constructed to serve this project. All of the residential lots would be served with on-site septic, and then there would be future sewer lines to serve the school sites, which the timeline of that is a little bit up in the air still as far as the construction of the schools should this project be approved. So like I said, this is 9 lots totaling 696.6 acres located generally north and south of FM 552 along the Bend Payne extension. All of the property is currently zoned agriculture and in the Fate city limits, and it's currently vacant with agricultural activities on it from time to time. Here's a map showing the location of the property outlined in yellow in proximity to the other neighborhoods within the city and outside of the city. Now, these next 2 slides, I just want to make sure you're aware, are turned 90 degrees to the right, so north is actually to the right, simply because of the configuration and the landscape configuration of the slides, but south is to your left, north is to your right, but this shows essentially the layout, the concept layout of the property or the project, North Bend Payne being extended to the north, crossing 552 into North Smith Road. You can see Prince Lane coming from the bottom of the screen, which is actually from the east, extending from its existing terminus, and over and connecting to North Bend Payne Road, and then North Country Lane branching off of North Bend Payne and moving to the west. Again, there are 460 residential lots shown here, as well as an extensive system of trails, sidewalks, and a new road network. So continuing with the description of the project, there are 460 units currently shown in the concept plan. Per the plan development language, there's a maximum of 500 units. Should there be some minor updates to the project based on the civil engineering design, there might be a couple more lots that would fit on the project, but since this is early stages, the concept plan, this is what they've been able to design based on the available land within the project. Now, related to the comprehensive plan, generally we would expect at the most a residential density of 1 unit per acre, which is in alignment with the residential estate zoning district. That's the densest residential zoning district that conforms to the comprehensive plan designations for this area. If 500 units were to be built on this property, that would constitute 0.72 units per acre, meaning more than 1 acre per unit. The concept plan density, as shown here with 460 units, is 0.66 units per acre per gross acre. So the density is actually much less than what would be realized with the residential estate zoning district. Again, these are lot sizes of a minimum of 0.75 acres based on configuration and whatnot. A lot of the lots are greater than that, but that's the minimum. All of these lots will be served by on-site septic systems, and that will be permitted through TCEQ. We don't permit any of our septic through Rockwall County, which other communities do. We have a direct permitting relationship with TCEQ. Again, there would also be a public water line extension into the project and throughout the project to serve the development. Currently, this property falls within the CCN jurisdiction of the City of Fate and Mount Zion Water District. Most likely, in order to consolidate the water service, there would be a CCN transfer of the portion within the Mount Zion District over to the City of Fate, so there'd be a consistent water supplier. A CCN is a certificate of conveyance and necessity, which establishes the jurisdictional boundaries and service responsibilities of either cities or special utility district or service districts for water and sewer. So in your packet, in the exhibits, the language of the plan development is provided for you. A plan development, again, is basically a custom zoning district. It's They have a vision for the project, and none of the existing zoning districts really work for them, so they can propose what's called a plan development, which is essentially a unique set of development criteria, and then we evaluate those against basically all of our guiding documents. So within the PD standards, the maximum density allowed for this project is, again, 1 unit per gross acre. Minimum lot size is 3/4 of an acre. The minimum air-conditioned space for any single-family home on any lot is 3,000 square feet. So that's the air-conditioned space. It does not include the garage area, so rather large homes. Maximum lot coverage is 35%, and that only applies to structures. So, your paving, anything like that doesn't count toward the maximum lot coverage. There's a 30-foot front yard setback, a 20-foot rear yard setback, a 10 or 20-foot side yard setback, depending on whether that side yard is up against a public street or an internal side yard. And there's a minimum 100-foot parcel width at the front setback line. So 30 feet in from the right-of-way, it has to be at least 100 feet wide. Sometimes if it's a real, like on a cul-de-sac or at a corner, where it touches the street might be less than 100 feet, but once you get to that building line, it has to be at least 100 feet wide. Continuing on with the description of the PD standards, there are upgraded garage design standards, and you can see some examples that they provided in the PD document. There are standards for building materials and for fencing requirements. There are anti-monotony requirements, which you can see on the image to the right, which means that you can't have basically the same design of building within 600 feet of any other building of that same design. So that just encourages a more varied streetscape. You're not going to see any of the production builders here anyway, but it's just a reassurance that you're going to have a varied and higher quality presentation along the streetscape because of the variety of design. There are some temporary and permanent signage standards. So the permanent signs would be like your subdivision entryway signs, but there'd also be, homes for sale this way, kind of temporary signs which would eventually go away. The PD commits the project to at least 3 amenity nodes, which can include parks, sports courts, play areas, a clubhouse, etc. And there's also standards for a property owners association or a homeowners association, which would be ultimately responsible for all the open space, all the trails, anything like that is under the HOA's responsibility. It won't be something that's maintained by the city. So as I mentioned before, there are 2 school sites that would be owned by the Rockwall ISD, a 36.1 acre middle school, which is shown in the yellow, and then a 15.5 acre elementary school site shown in the blue. Construction timeline is to be determined. We've talked a little bit with the RISD, but they've just recently finished some other facilities, so I wouldn't expect these to come right on the heels of any planning approvals should they occur. And again, they will require public water and sewer service to serve those facilities. So again, going into the approval criteria for zoning, this is a property owner initiated zoning change request rather than a city initiated zoning change like Robbie just presented on. So we take a kind of a different look at the different approval criteria because it's initiated by another entity. So first off, we're looking at the conformance with the comprehensive plan and other adopted plans. So as I mentioned earlier, the comprehensive plan for Fate assigns this entire property as the rural reserve place type. This is generally an area envisioned for either large agricultural tracts or kind of somewhat larger estate lots. This isn't where you would find, Wood Creek style or Williamsburg style suburban development. This is generally set aside for larger lot development. The plan development is similar to the representative zoning of residential estate. Like I mentioned earlier, residential estate is a 1 acre minimum lot size, and a 1 lot per acre density. In this case, the lot sizes are a little smaller. They're 0.75 acres or larger, but because 24% of the total acreage is preserved in open space and floodplain. That's why they're asking for a somewhat smaller lot size, because they can't develop a large portion of the property. Large lot, single family, like I said, is representative of that place type in the comprehensive plan. There's also going to be the extension of the public roads per the master thoroughfare plan. If you look at the small image on the bottom left, you can see the highlighted sections of North Bend Payne, Prince Lane, and Country Lane. That's essentially similar to the road extensions that they're showing here on the concept plan on the right. So they are following the master thoroughfare plan in their proposal. Moving on to criterion B, which is the character of the surrounding neighborhood. We took a look at the existing single-family subdivisions to the south. First, we have Montera, which is directly to the south of the proposed project area. That has lot sizes ranging from about 6,000 to 15,500 square feet. Wood Creek, further to the southeast, has lots ranging from 5,75,000 square feet and to about a little over 11,000 square feet. And some lots are just kind of wonky shaped, and so they tend to be a lot larger than others just because of where they fit. Elsewhere along the perimeter of the property, we see large lot residential and agricultural lands. We see residential lots ranging from the 1 to 5 acre range generally, and then a lot of larger undeveloped parcels as well. You can see those on the image on the right. You can see undeveloped parcels, but then you see clusters of smaller residential lots nearby. So as with any zoning change request, we have a robust public notice process. First off, we submitted public notices to the newspaper, and that was published at least 15 days prior to the hearing. We also are required to post signage on the property, and so the applicant provided the signage, placed the signage all around the property where it abuts public right-of-way so that it's actually visible, and then sent us photos showing proof that the signage was there. And finally, we also mailed out letters to all properties within 200 feet of the perimeter or the boundary of the affected property. And so that resulted in 93 letters being sent. Those were sent at least 10 days ahead of the hearing tonight. As of 2:15 this afternoon, we had received 8 written responses. And then at this meeting, I do have 4 additional responses which I haven't had time to review. I can tell you those are all against as well. So we have a total of, actually, I had a little typo because the 8th one was last minute, so forgive the typo here. So we have 12 written responses against the proposal. And judging by our friends in the audience, we'll probably have some more comments coming during the public hearing too. A summary of the public responses that I did have a chance to review were some concerns about, first off, requesting additional details about the housing, infrastructure, and community impacts from the project. There were concerns about infrastructure and traffic, concerns about the loss of the green space and recreational opportunities on the property, comments that the city was just in general getting too crowded, desires to preserve the farmland and the agricultural character of the area, and a general request to reconsider further development and fate. There was concern about increased traffic, noise, crime, and other community concerns. And there was a sentiment of opposing more housing in the area and a preference for parks, trails, and outdoor activities that could be provided on that property. So because this is a zoning case, we did run a fiscal analysis on the project. We have a couple of different methodologies, as we've shared with some of the more seasoned members on P&Z. We look at the fiscal analysis not, and I want to make very clear, not as a criterion for approval or denial of this project. We cannot base the decision that y'all make tonight on this fiscal analysis. The purpose of this fiscal analysis is simply as an educational tool for us to understand the fiscal dynamics of different development patterns so that we can, as we look ahead at our comprehensive plan process, which is coming up, we can be thoughtful about that and understand that the decisions that we make do have a fiscal impact on the city, and so we can be holistic in how we develop out the city, so we have a good balance of different land uses across the city. So based on information provided by the developer as well as information that's available publicly, at build-out, meaning once the project's all built out and the developer can talk about what that timeline looks like, the project market value is estimated at about $736 million. These are expected to be higher-end homes with a high market and assessed value. The contribution to the city anticipated and the actual checklist, the worksheet that we use to calculate these numbers is actually an exhibit to your packet. The year one contribution to the city, which would be a combination of property taxes, online sales taxes from like Amazon and stuff like that, and franchise fees paid by residential properties, will be about $1.545 million. The public road replacement cost, so for all those public roads, Ben Payne, Prince Lane, Country Lane, and all the local roads, is calculated to be about $22.25 million. And the way we calculate that, we don't allocate 100% of the public road cost to the project if it's a collector road. So Ben Payne Road, it's being built for the benefit of everybody. It's going to greatly improve our circulation. It's going to improve emergency response. So when we look at this fiscal analysis, we do take into account the purpose of that roadway. And I'll stop there because it gets kind of complicated. And then if we take that road replacement cost number, and if we wanted to put money aside every year for 40 years, assuming that the road's going to last that long, and we had to rebuild that road after 40 years, we'd have to put about $556,000 away in a fund every year to save that money back up to rebuild those roads in the future. And that's just, thinking about stewardship of our resources, stewardship of our infrastructure. So we have two different methods to look at the productivity of projects, residential, commercial, otherwise. One way we do is we look at the cost of serving each residential or commercial unit based on our annual adopted budget. And the other way is looking at the proportionate area of the city that's being impacted by the zoning change. And so when we look at the per unit method, we're calculating that it would cost the city about $570,000 a year to serve that area. And that service includes police and fire, general administration, maintenance of roads, parks, any kind of parks that those residents would come to. So if they come to Robert Smith, we're maintaining that for the benefit of everybody, including them. And so that's how we calculate the cost to serve. The project net revenue, basically looking at how much we would collect from that project minus the cost to serve that project plus the annual public road cost would be about $415,000. Over 40 years, it looks like we would gain about $36 million from that based on this methodology. The revenue to cost ratio, which is an evaluation of for every dollar that we spend taking care of that project, how much would we receive? In this case, it would be $2.69 for every dollar that we spend. And then if we take into account the road replacement cost, it goes down to $1.37. Now, looking at the proportionate area method, obviously you can see there's a little bit of a different output because, again, just because it's two different methodologies, and we don't, we want to look at both of these because they both have their own merit. The cost to serve here would be $1.6 million because it's just such a large land area, and we take the budget, divide it up across the entire city landscape, and then each acre has a certain cost to serve based on that methodology. Looking at the net revenue with roads, that actually puts us in the negative $611,000, and then over 40 years, it puts us in a deficit of $24 million. So you can see there's a really significant difference between the per unit cost method and the proportionate area method, which is why I thought it was important to share both. The revenue to cost ratio, 97 cents to the dollar, and then if we take into that road replacement cost, it's 72 cents to the dollar. If we compare the private value, the value of all the private development, all those homes, to the value of the public roads, that's a 33-to-1. So we consider between 20-to-1 and 40-to-1 as generally positive for that metric. And if we took 100% I know this is all complicated stuff, but if we took 100% of the property taxes that we collect from that project and put it all to repaying that road cost, it would take 16 years if we just allocated all that property tax to the roads. So we'd pay it off before we had to rebuild the roads again. So that's kind of good news. So with all that being said, looking at all those criteria, staff's recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission is approval of this zoning request with conditions. And so there are a few of them here, so I'm going to go over them in detail because I think it's important context. So first off, there's a condition to provide a copy of the easement for the dam in Phase 6 for city records and include the easement boundary within the preliminary plat. There's a Soil and Water Conservation District dam up on the north side of 552. I believe it's called Crenshaw Lake, actually, which kind of led to the name of the project. We just need to make sure that it's delineated in the plat and protected with an easement. There's actually already an easement, but it needs to be represented on the plat. Number 2 is that prior to approval or preliminary plat, the architectural controls document that they reference in the PD needs to be attached as an exhibit to the signed plan development ordinance. So we don't have that yet. Before that ordinance is signed and therefore effective, we would need to have that document and attached as an exhibit to the PD. Because in the language of the PD, that architectural controls document replaces the standard residential design standards that we have in Article 5 of our Unified Development Ordinance. This one's a mouthful, and I have a graphic to support it, so we'll talk about this a little bit. So it states the following. The northeasterly departure of North Smith Road from the existing right-of-way is not supported by the City of Fayett's Master Thoroughfare Plan nor the Rockwall County Thoroughfare Plan. The preferred alternative for roadway improvements north of FM 552 is to follow the current alignment of North Smith Road with a smoothing out of the double 90-degree bend to match design speeds and city design standards. A traffic impact analysis shall be prepared for the project and submitted with a preliminary plat. Based on findings in the traffic impact analysis, or TIA, the section of North Smith Road north of FM 552 may be a 4-lane, which is classified as A4D or a 100-foot right-of-way, or a 3-lane or C3U or with a 70-foot right-of-way. The preliminary plat shall show a road section that accommodates the findings from the TIA and meets the city's design criteria and construction standards. Should future discussions with the city, Rockwall County, and Collin County reach consensus on an alternative northern alignment, a concept plan amendment may be sought by the developer to establish the northeasterly departure route as depicted in the concept plan, or a separate alignment resulting from the multi-jurisdictional discussion. And here's what I'm talking about. You can see on the north side, as the double 90 occurs on North Smith Road, they're showing a departure from the existing North Smith Lane right-of-way, kind of moving to the northeast. And as you can see on the image on the left, our Master Thoroughfare Plan follows North Smith Road for the most part with a smoothing out of the alignment of the right-of-way where that double 90 occurs. That's our preference. That's the alignment with the thoroughfare plan of the city and Rockwall County, and so that's why the condition establishes that as the preferred alignment, essentially the required alignment unless there's consensus for an alternative in the future. And if you have questions about that stuff, you feel free to pitch them at me after this presentation concludes. Item number 4, recommended condition number 4, prior to approval of a preliminary plat, a development agreement shall be established between the City of Fayette and the applicant. This agreement shall identify the means by which the impact fee eligible public improvements will be compensated. This agreement shall also identify the scope, scale, and timing of improvements to connect the existing northern terminus of North Bend Payne Road, currently adjacent to Montera Phase 2, to the southern end of North Bend Payne as contemplated in Exhibit C of the proposed plan development. The agreement may include other terms beyond those listed herein. Condition 5. Subsection 4F shall state that garages are subject to the side and rear yard setbacks of the RLL district. RLL district, as shown in the exhibit to your report, is essentially their designation of what their zoning is. RLL is residential large lot. They're just kind of naming the district that they're creating. Condition 6, subsection 4K shall state that temporary signs shall be removed no later than the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy for the project phase within which the sign or lots referenced by the sign is or are located. So going back to condition 4, I want to show you what that's talking about. So here's an overlay of the concept plan that was submitted for your consideration. And you can see overlaid on the aerial, somewhat recent aerial of Fate. This area that's shown under construction here is Montera Phase 2, and they built North Bend Paint up to this point right here. As you can see, there's about a 1,400-foot gap between what's shown in the concept plan and the existing northern terminus physical, placement of North Bend Paint. The development agreement that I referenced in condition 4 needs to basically figure this out. And we do have a meeting with the developer, other affected property owners, and the school district scheduled for next Thursday. So hopefully we'll be able to hash out some of those details. But this will have to be addressed in the development agreement because that continuity, that connectivity is essential, not only for this development, for the schools that will be there in the future, but also our own circulation as a community and as a city. And these are the last three. Condition 7, subsection 4P shall state that a floodplain study shall be submitted prior to or with the preliminary plat. Condition 8, all cul-de-sacs shall include a bulb meeting the design requirements found in the Fate design criteria and construction standards. That way, fire trucks can turn around, make sure they're the right size. And finally, condition 9, changes to the concept plan, preliminary plat, or final plat may occur based on the results of special studies and civil engineering plan review. That's generally a step that occurs after zoning is approved. These changes will not require a formal concept plan amendment as long as the changes are those limited to responses to the special studies and civil engineering plan review, subject to the discretion of the administrator, who is the Director of Planning and Development Services. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions now. The applicant is here and does have the presentation of their own. Thank you.
All right. Does the board have any questions now for Ryan?
I just saw some audience members perk up and a little bit of confusion. We're not allowed to consider the fiscal analysis according to state law. Is that correct?
According to our code,
Thank
we
you.
explicitly and purposely have not included the fiscal analysis as an approval or denial criterion. And I want to make sure everybody in the audience and in the P&Z understand that. The criteria that I actually listed and explained are the basis upon which you should be looking at this. Again, the fiscal analysis has different methodologies. There are a lot of assumptions baked into it. It's intended as an educational and contextual tool, but not the basis upon which to approve or deny any project.
Thank you.
I do have one question. Can you go back to your presentation, page 9? I even wrote down the page to remember. So I'm trying to just get an idea of what this graphic is. So was this just an overlay to give more of a conceptual visual of what neighborhood is, what are we looking at here?
I kind of glossed over that because I was reading the list, so forgive me. Yeah, so I wanted to help people understand what 3/4 of an acre looked like and a 3,000 square foot home on 3/4 of an acre looked like. So this is actually just an aerial clip from the adjacent Wood Creek neighborhood. So essentially, these lots tend to be in the 6,000 to 7,000 square foot range. So 3/4 of an acre is roughly equivalent to about 5 standard suburban lots. And you can see the relationship of the 3,000 square foot home to a 3/4 of an acre, and it's just a square, so obviously it'll be a different shape, but the relationship of 3,000 square feet versus the 3/4 acre, which is the orange, you can see it's proportionately a much larger lot. And I just want, sometimes it's hard to visualize that, and so I just want to make sure you guys were able to see that. Thank you for reminding me to explain that.
And then my next question is, I'm sure that's going to be on everybody's minds anyways, the water capability. So you were talking about the Mount Zion versus transferring to City of Fate. Does that transfer come out of, once that's completed, does that end up being a Fate obviously Fate provided water supply, but will there be additional capabilities built in to give Fate more of a water supply to do that?
Sure. So we have plenty of water capacity. We are a customer, I think we're a customer city of North Texas Municipal Water District. And so we have a contract with them. They provide our water. We have recently constructed a pump station and water tank down on Ben Payne and 66. So we have capacity for a lot of future development. We were kind of front-loading our storage and pumping capacity. So because this is a less dense development, notwithstanding the school requirements, it's not going to put a huge amount of pressure on our system. It'll create looping, which is important for water systems. By that extension of Prince Lane, they'll be able to loop the water system over to Prince Lane. We also own a piece of property at the end of the western end of Prince Lane. We purchased a piece of property last year with the intent of putting another water tower on there in the future. And so through that property, they'd be able to extend Prince Lane as well as the water system to complete the loop and serve this area. So there wasn't any concern among our public works staff or anything that this would be a problem.
Okay. And then my final question, I know these are kind of like little minute, but it gets brought up. So you said these sites will have on-site septic, and they're approximately 0.75. Is that, now, to give context, I live on the south side, so all of our lots are half acres with on-site septic. And we were told that was a special provision given that they should have been on 1 acre lots. Are these the same type of on-site septics that would have normally been for 1 acre lots, and are they getting a special provision for these, or what?
Sure, that's a good question. Now, normally, any cities that receive permitting for on-site septic through Rockwall County does have a 1 acre minimum lot size. When the city started basically having on-site septic regulated in Fate, because we already had substandard lots per that 1 acre provision, we ended up having to not have a permitting and monitoring relationship with Rockwall County. We actually are permitted directly through TCEQ. That is different from a lot of other cities, but what that does is actually TCEQ does have that half acre minimum lot size standard. So through our permitting provisions, these 3/4 lot sizes will be in compliance with TCEQ's minimum lot provisions. Generally, and the developer could probably speak to this, generally I think it's like a modified type of OSSF system. I don't think it's necessarily like the huge spray heads. I could be wrong, but I think they generally have like modified designs that either drip emitters or other types of use of emissions, so that it accommodates that somewhat smaller lot size than the standard 1 acre that usually fits all those big spray heads. Does that address your question?
That does, and then it leads me to one more question. Will this be in a mud district or a PID district?
That has not ever been discussed.
Okay.
The applicant has indicated that that's not their goal,
Okay.
not in their plans.
Then I'm done with all my questions.
But
Thank you.
he's welcome to contradict me in his presentation, so.
Sounds good.
Hey, Ryan, I have a couple more. On the I think it was North Smith Road. Are you saying that it would have to follow the like thoroughfare plan unless like Rockwall County and Fate agreed to do so?
Unless we agree to an alternative, that's correct. And at this point, our thoroughfare plans have not changed, and we've made sure that the developer is aware of that. So that's why we are conditioning this recommended approval, that they would have to follow the thoroughfare plan rather than a diversion of the road onto somebody else's property.
Okay, and this is going to be a nitpicky one, but you used an acronym I'm not familiar with. You were talking about the water networks and a CCN. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, sure. So it's CCN is an abbreviation for Certificate of Convenience and Necessity.
Okay, thank you.
And so essentially it was developed when in more rural areas, and you had some landowners and agricultural operators that needed water, and so they created these special utility districts, and in order to support the special utility districts and their investments in the infrastructure to serve those properties, they created CCNs or CCN boundaries, meaning that no other jurisdiction or operator can provide water within that boundary, and it's established by the Public Utilities Commission at the state level, and so they have a map and that shows all those boundaries. So if you're within, say, Bear Creek Special Utility District, which serves a lot of property owners on the north side of town, we can't go in and serve any of the properties in there with public water. Bear Creek kind of has a monopoly on that, and so the transfer of CCN from one purveyor to another is a process that goes through the PUC, but it's generally based on the ability of a purveyor to provide water. And Mount Zion they don't have a lot of capacity anymore. They're a smaller operator. So, and then just also to create a consistency across the project, we expect, and again, ultimately PUC makes that call, so there might be some funky Mount Zion water line going through the middle of it, but we expect that there probably would be a transfer of what is currently in Mount Zion's boundary, which basically just follows 552 and a portion of North Smith Road, like just right along the right-of-way. The rest is Fate. We expect that just to be consolidated under Fate's CCN.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, trying to get an idea of a timeline, because I see this kind of splits off between 552 as well, and there's going to be a widening that's going to happen there. And you actually talked about some of the gotchas in this is not necessarily where the city would have culpability on that, but more on the developer. So you started talking about there needs to be an agreement in place with that road. So there's going to be a delay. Let's just say, even before the permitting or anything else can be done with this, that has to be figured out.
Yes, I mean, as the condition states, and I'll make sure that the exact language is provided, is condition 4, basically prior to approval of a preliminary plat. And I imagine, because they're, quick digression, every single one of these buildings, these new homes is going to have to pay impact fees, basically to support the expansion of the public infrastructure across the city. Some of the public improvements that are contemplated here, northern expansion of North Bend Payne specifically, is eligible for credits against those impact fees because it's part of our master thoroughfare plan, and we were going to have to build it at some point anyway. So if they build it, then we don't have to spend money building it, so we have this cost kind of reimbursement relationship. That has to be spelled out in a development agreement. So I imagine, and I can assume pretty confidently, that should the council approve this zoning, probably the next day we're going to be sitting down talking about that, because that's going to be a part of their pro forma. They're going to have to get it figured out just to manage their cost, their ROI. And so that section of Bend Payne that is discussed here is going to be part of that discussion right away, because it's essential and part of the condition.
Sorry, again, so as I look at this, I go, oh, there could be 3, I know it's not probably, I should probably let him speak, but it could be a couple years, we may see dirt moving, but I'm more concerned about so what triggers the roads, the connectivity happening? So is it, I understand there's a conversation to take care of that one piece of the road there, but, we need that connectivity that's going to take it all the way up to 552, which benefits us.
Yep.
That's some time.
Yeah, so I don't expect that the entire length of Bend Payne from 552 to Montera is going to be built in one fell swoop. As long as they maintain adequate access for emergency response, they'll be building it in phases. They'll be building, based on the phases, I don't know what happened there, based on the phases of development that are shown in the concept plan, they'll be building the infrastructure to serve each of those phases kind of sequentially. So they can access phase 1 from 552. They're probably going to build the section of Ben Payne from 552 first and the public infrastructure therein, and then kind of march south as the subsequent phases occur and then tie in Prince Lane. So just like most residential developments, if they have multiple phases, they build the infrastructure for that phase and then build the infrastructure for the next phase when they're ready to build the homes. So that's how this would work as well. And that phasing and the infrastructure timing is also going to be supported by the TIA, the traffic impact analysis. That's going to show when the infrastructure has to be in place at what times in order to support the circulation needs of that development.
So if the board approves this, does a preliminary plat come back through, or is that going to go through council?
Right, so any vote that you make tonight, again, it's for the benefit of the audience, is a recommendation to council. Council ultimately approves or denies zoning. So just like Robbie's presentation on the agriculture zoning, these are all going to council, no matter what your recommendation is tonight, approval, denial, approved with conditions, that's a recommendation. Council makes the final decision on this zoning before you tonight. If approved, then the preliminary plat also goes through Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. Preliminary plat is not discretionary, however, so as long as it meets our subdivision ordinance requirements, there's no kind of discretionary, like, if it checks the boxes, you kind of have to approve it. That's just how plats work, based on state law, local code, all of that.
Yeah, well, that triggers into Misty, our engineer.
Our city engineer, yeah, she'll be closely.
Looking at this.
Yeah, she participates in the preliminary plat reviews, all of the civil reviews, so anything in here is gonna have full engineering review before any dirt gets moved.
Okay, thank you. All right, if we don't have any other questions, then on the board, then the applicant presentation.
While he works on this, just for a brief moment, I did want to answer a couple of your questions while they're fresh on your mind. In relation to the water CCN, we are anticipating a transfer from Mount Zion to the City of Fate. That's a process that happens through the PUC. It's a fairly straightforward process, but since we have larger than 26 contiguous acres, we can actually choose who our CCN provider is. So that process is just a legal one that has to go through the PUC, and it's one that we've done several times, and so we don't anticipate any issues there. As far as the septic questions that you had, ma'am, septic technology has come a long ways in the recent years, and so a lot of times when you think septic, you think spray heads, and after you flush the toilet a whole bunch of times, a head pops up and it shoots water all over the place. This is actually going to be mixed systems, so with the spray heads is typically an aerobic system, and then you have spray heads that are certain distance apart as laid out by a septic engineer. These are actually going to be a combination of an aerobic system with a low pressure dose. So it will have below ground tubing that will have a pump just like you would with a sprinkler aerobic system, but it will actually pump that through a low pressure dose piping. It works out very well. We've actually had some homeowners utilize this in their front yards. And so they don't actually have any irrigation in their front yards because it's all recycled water. And then as far as our presentation tonight, so I do want to let y'all know that we're excited to be here. We're excited to bring this project to the City of Fate. We are in agreement with all of the recommendations from staff, and our hope tonight is a vote for approval. Crenshaw Preserve is just that. We're working very hard to preserve the integrity of the land, the look of the land, the feel as you drive through this community. and really bring something new and exciting to the city of Fate. I'm going to kind of walk you through our design process so you can kind of see how we're looking at things, and then be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. After the public hearing, I would love the opportunity and welcome the opportunity to answer any of your questions. I'll respond to any feedback from the citizens that are here tonight. So the first thing we do is we kind of take a look at the surrounding zoning. Everything to the west of FM 549 is located within the city of Rockwall. Generally, the city of Fate is on the eastern side of 549. And so we just kind of look at the surrounding properties. You can see Wood Creek is down to our southeast. Montero is directly due south of us. And that's really kind of all that's around us within the city of Fate. On the east side, or I'm sorry, on the west side, as you get into Rockwall, you've got some smaller lot development there along 552 and all PDs, kind of as you move over towards Highway 205 there in Rockwall. The project boundary, so we've got a couple different colors here that you'll see. The red color is property that is currently privately owned. The blue colors that you see on this particular map are going to be properties that are owned by ISDs. All of this property resides within Rockwall ISD. Actually, the eastern property boundary, both along Smith Road and along the eastern boundary south of 552, is the boundary line between Roy City and Fate, or I'm sorry, between Roy City and Rockwall ISD. The next thing we do is we kind of take a look at the topography. We want to know where the high points are on the property. We want to know where the low points are, and you can kind of see the lighter colors here show you the high points. The darker colors show you where the low points are and where the water's at. The white lines that you see on this property are the future right-of-ways through the property. So you can kind of see we really break this up with some curved linear streets as it runs north and south. East and west, we didn't want to just have a straight connector, so we've kind of broken that up into two different sections. Just to provide a little bit of ease as you drive east and west through the development. As we take a look at the slopes, this just kind of clarifies the topography a little bit, but really our goal with this development is not to mass grade the site, but really fit the development to the way the land sits today. We're really working very hard to preserve what's there and really make it something that's beautiful. Water, as we see here, we've got some floodplain on the property as well as one lake that resides completely within the property, and then the Crenshaw Burnett Lake there to our south. We have just a portion of that resides within the property. As we look at our view corridors, we really want to kind of take a look at, as we place the roads on top of the existing topography, we want to see what those views are going to be coming outside of each of the homes and how they're going to kind of look out. And so this just kind of shows you a little bit of what the view angles are and how particular homes would sit within the property. And this really kind of flows into why we've laid the property out the way we have. The next thing we want to kind of do is look at our design vision. So what do we really want? Crenshaw Preserve celebrates the dynamic and resilient ecology of North Texas. As you see here in these pictures, there are native grasses, native plants, native trees, and that's really what we want to bring to this. Really, our goal at the end of the day is for all of our common areas to not require irrigation, which is a big proponent of our design. A lot of native grasses, not a typical manicured section like you would see through a majority of the developments as you drive across the Metroplex. Really kind of bring to life what the native Texas plants are and really highlight those as you drive through the community. And we'll show you a little bit about that later on as well. One thing we always do is just kind of look at the history of Fate, how it kind of came together. These are some historical pictures from the day, but really that kind of lends into what our historical or what our architecture designs are going to be and what the architectural feel of the community is as you drive through it. So then we come to Crenshaw Preserve. What is that? That is really, as you drive through this community, we want this to be something that you don't see in a normal community. You don't see this in 95% of the developments as you drive across DFW, over in Rockwall, out to the east to Royce City. Really, this is a very unique layout. It's a very unique usage of native plants and grasses and landscaping to really provide kind of a feel that you're actually driving through a preserve. This is just some pictures, some architecture, architectural designs. You kind of see our landscaping through here. So, wildflowers, native plants, native grasses, trees, open spaces, really kind of not using a lot of, as you see down here in the hardscape photos, not using a lot of commercial products, using more natural products, natural stone benches, really just kind of bring out that this is a native piece of property. And so that's really kind of our goal, is not to enhance it with a lot of commercially built things, really utilize natural products throughout the entire development. As we look at our amenities and programming, you can see kind of the grass landscape here. There is a little bit of manicured space if you look in the lower left picture, kind of along the trails. And that kind of extends out about 3 to 5 feet from the actual paved surfaces. And then after that, it's native grasses, almost like you're walking through trails in a state park is really kind of the goal there. Very kind of what we consider passive amenities. So sitting areas that are just unique destination places around the lakes that you can kind of go to. And we've looked at fire pits. We've looked at a variety of different things that really provide destination for families to go to, but are also passive in nature. As far as play structures go, we're really looking towards kind of natural climbing structures in different aspects of balancing and utilizing natural materials. You see in that picture on your upper left. Obviously, we have 2 lakes on the property, so fishing, kayaking are all things that we want the residents to be able to enjoy. And then you can see a picture of a fire pit there on your lower right with seating areas for residents to enjoy. So really want to kind of break up the property and look at how we've integrated the ISD property into the development. You can see here the Rockwall ISD property is located here in blue. The red property is the property owned by BJJ Investments. And so we've really worked too hard to combine these 2 properties together and figure out the best way to utilize the entire space. So you've seen this a little bit before, and I apologize that I'm rotated 180 degrees from what Mr. Wells showed you there, but our north is actually to the left, and our south would be there to the right. But as you look down that main road as it goes through the development, you'll notice that this road is very curved. It's got a wide curve to it, but it's also divided. And it's divided by upwards of 30 to 40, in some instances 80 feet of width between the north and south sections. Really what this does is it provides you a little bit of a unique opportunity as you drive through. You're not whizzing past other cars. You don't see the traffic coming southbound if you're heading north in a lot of the areas. And so it really just provides something that's extremely unique as opposed to a 10 or 12-foot median that you would normally see that has a row of trees right down the middle of it. These will be bermed medians that are, like I said, upwards of 80 feet wide. As far as kind of our entry features and our signage, you can see here in red on both the north and the south, these red circles on the north and the south side. Those are going to be where our primary entry features are at. And we've got some representative photos of those a little bit later. Our blue circles here are going to be secondary entry features. And you can really see kind of the school site and how that kind of is integrated into, the neighborhood with the elementary school. The middle school, we've moved up off of 552. This provides a little bit better access for the middle school students. Typically, middle schools are larger. You've got generally somewhere around 1,100, 1,200 students at a middle school. Now that 6th grade has been moved up. Elementary schools are typically somewhere around 500 to 700 students. So they just don't require as much space. As far as timing for these particular schools, there's really no time frame that's set for these to be put into motion right now. Both the middle schools on the north side of I-30 for the school district are both kind of hovering right at capacity or just under capacity, so there's really not a need for a third middle school on the north side right now. The elementary school, this elementary school side is going to help relieve Stevenson, which is a little bit over capacity right now. So the elementary school will probably come a little bit sooner, but there's no particular timeline as of today for when those will be constructed. As far as trails, so we've got 3 different types of trails within the development. On this picture here, you'll see pink trails. The pink trails are going to be 8-foot concrete trails. We have them running north and south throughout the entire property. We also have them running east and west throughout the entire property. The yellow trails are 6-foot, and then we also have what we call soft trails, or a little bit more passive trails. So those are natural material trails, decomposed granite, or just trails that you would see in a state park, kind of cut into the dirt, really good for riding bikes on, and really providing just a very natural atmosphere to walk through as opposed to walking on 8 or 6 feet of concrete. As far as our tree preservation plan, you can see here in the open space areas, we are preserving all those trees and all that native vegetation within those areas. And really, we think this just kind of lends to the property overall. Keeping that vegetation there, and you'll see in this next slide here, oops. But you can see, like, we haven't built to the exteriors of the floodplain. We've left a lot of areas around the floodplain and surrounding the floodplain open. We have a fair amount of open space, over 126 acres of open space, but that's not all floodplain. We didn't reach out and touch every single inch of buildable property here because that's important. The other thing you'll notice is just how curved the streets are, how curved linear everything is. Really, it's our goal within this development that as you drive through it, you don't see more than 3 or 4 houses at any given time. That really kind of makes it feel a lot more rural. But these are 3/4 acre lots, so they're very large excuse me, very large lots compared to what you would normally see in development. As far as our primary corridor, so this is kind of what you would expect to see as you pull up. You can really see the main monumentation signs there in the big red circles, the orange circles being our secondary markings. And again, we'll see some pictures of those here in just a few minutes. This is a pretty unique look at that drive corridor, so it really kind of tells you what the topography is doing as you drive through this. So you can see if we kind of, the top portion of this slide lines up with the roadway as it runs north and south. And so we start at the right, we're south and we're heading kind of north, and you kind of get to a little low crossing there, and then you kind of come up to the hill, to the hilltop there, and you kind of look down onto 552, and you slide down 552, and as you go across 552 to the north side, you even got some topography there. So this is not just a straight flat road as it drives through this particular piece of property. As I said, we're really trying very hard to fit the development and almost just overlay it on top of the existing ground, which is another benefit of having larger lots, is you don't have to clear cut everything, you don't have to completely mass grade everything, so it really preserves the natural topography of what's there. As far as our primary entry monumentation, I mean, you can imagine driving up to this and really feeling like you're somewhere different. This is not a typical entry feature that you would see in a development. It's not a typical drive up to a development. You can see just by the people that are shown in this picture, I mean, this is a massive entry, almost like you're pulling into a state park. It's really bold, it really stands out, and you can see all the vegetation that's there around the entry point. Our secondary monument's a little bit more subdued, but you can still see the utilization of large format stone. This is not small CMU bricks or anything like that. I mean, you're talking about stones that are anywhere from 3 to 6 feet long and 2 to 3 feet tall. So really substantial monumentation, even for our secondary entries. Our tertiary entries, just kind of the entries into each little individual pocket. Again, utilizing large format stone. It's our goal with this is to kind of seem like that stone was there and we just kind of carved around it. So really to provide something that looks like it's been here for a long time. As far as landscaping goes, you can kind of see here just a lot of our visionary pictures and representative photos of the different types of grasses, different types of wildflowers. Again, not 100% manicured space. We really want this to feel like almost like you're driving through a pasture as you drive through the major corridor. As far as our building products, I know there's probably going to be a question about, hey, what are these homes going to be listed at? What are these homes going to be priced with? You can see here from our building partners that we're looking to place within this development, Toll Brothers, Perry Homes, Highland Homes, Partners in Building. These are going to be million two houses. And that's where they're going to start. We'll look at the timeline for this project here in just a few moments, but just based on the price of the property, the price of the improvements that we're putting there, these homes are going to be in excess of $1 million from day one. That price is only going to escalate as we go down the road. I did want to, Ryan and I were kind of on the same page, but I wanted to show you this slide here. This pulls a section out of Wood Creek that's 8 acres in size, and you can see that there's 46 lots in that particular section. That does include the roadways, but this is in the northwest corner of Wood Creek, and that's at 5.75 lots per acre. We kind of took a look at our development and said, hey, what's our densest area? So we picked this section on the north side of 552, and at 8 acres, we have 9 lots, and we don't even include kind of all the roadway there, but that's kind of our densest area. So you can really see a comparison here between the two. Again, you heard these are 3,000 square foot minimum homes, and that's conditioned space. When you include patios and garages, you're probably looking at closer to 4,000 square feet under roof. So 480, 460 houses, somewhere in that range is what we're looking at. We still have to do a bunch of engineering, but that sounds like a lot. Here's kind of a timeline on how this project's going to unfold. It is a phased project. We currently have 8 phases planned, and so and these are smaller phases. You're looking at 75 lots per phase, somewhere right around there. And so with zoning approval sometime here, either next month or in May, we'd be looking to break ground on phase 1, which again would just be 75 to 80 home sites, sometime in January of 2027, with your first homeowners moving in probably sometime around May of 2029. As we complete phases, as they get built out, we start the next phase, but ultimately, long-term timeline, when this entire development will be built out, you're looking at somewhere around 2040. So it's about a 14 to 16-year project from start to finish. So it's not just all tomorrow or all next year. These are too big of lots and too large of homes to just do what you would normally see, 175, 150, 175 lot phases is not where this is going to edge out. There's going to be much smaller phases, a much slower development process. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have now. And like I said earlier, I'd love the opportunity to come up after the public hearing and address any additional questions that the audience may have.
Board have any questions?
Yeah, I have one for you. On your timeline, you have phase 1 finishing like back on the last slide at 2028, and the first homeowners in 2029. What do you mean by complete phase 1 in May 28?
In May of 2028, that would just be completion of the infrastructure for that phase. And then once, kind of the way the process is, we go through our engineering plans. Once we get those approved, then we go build all the public infrastructure. Once the city has accepted all the public infrastructure, then they'll release building permits. So that's why you see the first homeowners moving in about a year after that Phase 1 infrastructure is completed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question regarding, I looked at the map, and yes, I was turning my head a lot. And that's okay. I just wanted to confirm that this project starts up by 552, which means any connection to 66 is not going to happen for a significant amount of time, because that looks like it's more towards Phase 4?
It would actually be in Phase 3.
Okay.
That the connection north and south would be completed there along Big Payne. Now, that would initially be 2 lanes running north and south. And then with Phase 4 and Phase 5, we would complete the other 2 lanes.
So we're looking at possibly not even a connection to 66, at least until 2031? I'm trying to go off your timeline, and I'm sorry, I did not write down that number.
Probably sometime around that 2030, 2031 timeframe with our Phase 3 construction, yes, ma'am.
So the majority of this traffic and, anything construction traffic would be coming in and off of 552?
Until Phase 3 is completed, yes,
Until
ma'am.
Phase 2 is completed? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it is 7:38, and we'll open the public hearings.
All right, I have several forms from citizens that have signed up to speak, and just because we may have some first-timers here that have never attended or participated in a meeting, if you don't mind, Chairman Wamokli, if I just kind of remind everybody, when you step to the podium, if you will please state your name and address for the record, and that's because, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anybody's name. It's not on purpose. So that way we have a clear stating of your name and address for the record. And then comments should be directed to the commission. And then also each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to speak. So the first person that signed up to speak is Ms. Karen Kaiser.
Karen Kaiser, 1093 North Churchill. Good evening. Had to give up the live stream and come out in my jeans tonight to just say, hallelujah, finally fate got what I've dreamt of for fate for a long time, or has the opportunity, should you recommend and the council say yes. This is the most beautiful plan development that I think fate has been considered for. I think it is, there's a need for large homes on large lots. Presently, when you reach that point in life where you're ready to make that kind of investment in $1 million, $1.5 million home, you have to leave fate and move to Heath. And there's no reason why that cannot be right in our city. I think that's what was dreamt of for decades before I lived here, with the rural reserve, large lot homes, no density, a beautiful school. I'm just very excited at the possibility for this. There is definitely a market for that. Probably by the time this is all said and done, there'll be $2 million homes should this proceed. There are plenty of people that spend that for where they live, and how fabulous that you could aspire to that and either move into fate to find it or stay in fate and move up to that. I think it's long overdue. I think there's a huge market for this. As they said, it's like a 12 to 14-year process to get there. The roads are already underway to bear whatever burden this not very dense, very large home, lovely, lovely neighborhood would bring. But I thank heavens for Crenshaw Preserve looking our way. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful project. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Next, we have Ms. Kristen Jebbia. I'm so sorry.
I live on Lydia Lane.
So I will be backing up to phase one. I just have a few questions. There's a water easement behind my house. How much land behind, by my fence to the beginning of the houses am I thinking? Do we have an idea of that? Will there be stoplights? Because I will never be able to get out of my subdivision to turn left with an expansion of a road and all the construction that's going to be going on anyway with the high school right here and then all of this. And electricity, who's going to be serving this new subdivision? Because we're currently on co-op, so are we going to get swamped in with whoever else serves the electricity? I don't know. And taxes, because my current home that I live in, I bought for $290,000. I can afford taxes somewhat. I mean, they keep going up. Now you're building $1 million to $1.5 million homes right behind my house. Does that drop me? Does that increase me? I get pushed out. How does this look for those of us? I've only lived there for 10 years. Everyone else lived there longer than I have, but we talk about all these great plans of parks and rocks and trees is great. It's pasture right now. I look at a horse's rear, or a cow's rear, not someone's backyard. To me, nature, that's nature. I realize there's progress. This appears to be so far ahead. There's nothing I can say that's going to stop it, but those would be some of my questions that I have. If anybody has an answer.
Right now, the public hearing just provides an opportunity for the members of the public to voice their concerns. It'll be the prerogative of the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission to ask for any of those questions to be addressed. Okay? We're not going to answer the questions immediately. It's after the public hearing, then there's a continued discussion, and those questions can be addressed at that time.
But none of them have been addressed yet.
Right, but they've been posed, we've been taking notes, and then we'll have a discussion and be able to talk about the questions that were posed during the public hearing and hopefully answer them to your satisfaction.
Okay, this is my first time, so it's just interesting that we have all these roads developed and I can see on all the glorious maps, but no one's thought about traffic lights or the people that currently live there and how they get out. Like, that's not something that's covered when a road is considered a means of transport for the building?
I'll make sure to respond to that when we have the post-public hearing discussion. I promise you, I have a comment that I can provide in the context of the greater discussion that we'll have about that.
So this is just a place to express my for or against, not
That's correct.
gain any more knowledge other than what's being presented. And of course, the developer's going to sell me on it. He's going to be like, it's beautiful, it's great. I'd rather that than Wood Creek. I will tell you that, but I'm just here to really.
Sure. Yeah, the public hearing isn't a dialogue. It's really just an opportunity for people to voice their concerns or support or whatever. And afterwards, the chair will be able to direct the conversation to either, address the questions as much as we can and any other questions that the P&Z might have.
Or like weeks down the line, not tomorrow or tonight.
No, it will be tonight.
Okay.
There will be a discussion after the public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just for clarification too, it is state law that we can't have a dialogue. So as we sit here and just look at you with a blank stare, it's not that we don't want to have a conversation. It is law that I cannot have a dialogue with you. So I forgive us. We're passionate and we do care. But as Ryan shared, there will be a point to where we'll do all we can to answer concerns and questions for you.
Okay. Next, we have Jerry Harrison.
Hello, my name is Jerry Harrison. I reside at 2708 Lydia Lane. Great presentations, I will tell you that. If I was in your seat, I'd be inclined to prove that, but I'm glad y'all are giving us the opportunity to tell us why we're against it. And as Paul Harvey said, the rest of the story's coming. Christine started it, and I'm going to continue on with it. We bought our home 6 years ago. When we bought our home, it was deeded that it could not be annexed into the city, any city. With this proposal, it puts us in what I've heard of as a TJ something. Don will probably speak more on that when he comes up. That will give that ability. That's one of the reasons we bought our forever home. It is on 1.5 acres of land. Every house on Lydia Lane is at least 1.5 acres of land. So we're putting houses that are half the size lots right behind our homes. So on our lot, looking at the map, we're gonna have 3 to 4 homes butting up right against us. Now, with us living where we live, we do things that maybe not everybody does. We shoot fireworks off every year, okay? We're unincorporated. You know, we have our burn piles. We burn our brush at least probably 12 times a year at least. This is gonna affect residents behind us, okay? We're gonna pee out by the tree, okay? We got 3 bathrooms. When we've got a party, which we have quite a few, we need more than 3 bathrooms. So every tree becomes a bathroom, okay? Some like to skinny dip. We don't want houses right behind us looking at us skinny dipping, okay? So those are some of the concerns. What Christine brought up also was the water easement behind our house. There are 2 outlets where they flush the water lines periodically. How is that going to affect this subdivision that they're building? We were also told when we bought the home that that was a floodplain behind us. No homes could ever be built there. Part of the reason we bought our forever home where we did, okay? So I would ask that you take those things in consideration when you're looking at this. I did notice on the proposal, there are sufficient similarities between the homes with us and what they're building. 1.5 acre lots is not similar to a 3/4 acre lot in any way, shape, or imagine. The picture we showed with, what was it, 6.5 houses shown on the picture of what a 3/4 acre looks like? Take our house, take that 1.5 acres and cut it in half. That's what you're looking at. And that's what we're asking. We're against it. We don't like it. It's not something we bought into when we bought the home. And we appreciate your consideration on that.
Next is Rita Lynch.
Just to get this out of the way, I broke my foot. I'm in the boot for 2 more weeks. So, Rita Lynch, and I live at 2404 Coyote Run Road. And I'm going to be emotional because listening to him, the speaker we just had is why we moved to our house. We wanted to be, let me breathe. We wanted to be out, not in the city limits. Thank you, Fate, you annexed us. We didn't want it. I can say, I don't even have to think about it. Being in the city of Fate has had nothing to offer us, absolutely nothing. So putting a neighborhood, Coyote Run Road, if I'm right, are you familiar with Coyote Run? That's down the side of what you're building. We're a gated community. The fence that runs down that side is on this property. Are they going to leave the barbed wire fence? Are they going to replace the fence? We didn't put the fence there. The person that owned that property did that fencing. There are 6 people in our gated neighborhood. Our lot is the smallest. It's 5 acres, and it's a 3,000 square foot house. So I can't, when you say a 3,000 square foot house minimum on 3/4 of an acre, that's like, oh my God, where are all those people coming from? That, for those of us that have managed to live out like that, it's fabulous. I used to never hear a car go down Smith Road. I do a little bit now. When it's 4 lanes, I'm going to want to scream because it's not what I'm used to. And I would agree, things change. They do, but I don't think they're always for the better. What we have is beautiful. And if you sit on my front porch, and gazed out at 2.5 acres. We're kind of in the middle of the lot at Sands Lake. It's a 26-acre lake, I believe. It's so peaceful. And I guarantee you, if any of y'all had the opportunity to do that, you'd say, oh, we'll never take this away from these people. But that's what you're doing. It's just what you're doing. I read what was online. I didn't get a letter. Apparently, I'm not within 200 feet of this neighborhood, but it feels like it's in my backyard. I don't want to see this neighborhood. I mean, and I'll say, yeah, it looked beautiful, but that's not what I want to see. I want to see the field that hasn't been mowed and the grass blowing back and forth. I want to see that occasional coyote walk across the road that goes through our property and private road to the house next to us. So, since I mentioned the coyotes, I want to talk about that for a minute, because I was thinking, what do I like about our property so much? You can drive down our road on almost any day, see hawks flying. I'd never seen a hawk carrying a snake. You can see that at my house. We saw a bald eagle scoop down, go over to a fence across that little lake, and eat something. That's great, being able to do that. Cardinals, my God, the cardinals love along Coyote Road, but on what will be your development, those cardinals are not going to be there. And I mean, they're thick certain times of the year. My favorite animal are the roadrunners that evidently they go, I think Ronnie is going to talk, they go over into his pasture, but if you drive down that road, they run back across into where you'll be building. Those roadrunners, which by the way are a protected animal, not endangered, but protected. So when I read that, because I thought, oh, we're going to lose the roadrunners. Nobody's going to gather them up and relocate them. But they're protected, and you're going to you're destroying the habitat for all these animals that I've mentioned that you can see. But is it really legal to destroy where roadrunners are living? Because they are protected. Feel free to look it up. I didn't know it until probably about 3 or 4 days ago. And my 3 minutes up? And I knew, hey, I could have tried to read my 2-page thing. May I give you a copy of what I had prepared, but it's way too long. But basically, okay, basically I hate what you're doing. You're destroying, rezoning, and building on all the beautiful fields. That's what I moved to Rockwall County for, and you're destroying it.
Okay, next is Beth Natali.
Beth Natali, 2450 Coyote Run. We will be backing up, I believe, according to the map, we will be backing up to zone 6 or 7, I believe. So my concerns are for Smith Road. There was talks of, phase 7 and 8. Our road, Coyote Run, will be backing up to that. So I have concerns for Smith Road, as Smith Road is Fate into Collin County. We have a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit right now. And then in Collin County, I believe it's 50 mile an hour, so 55. So there are severe safety concerns with Smith Road during this development. And I also have a question about will there be an entrance off 552 and will there be an entrance off Smith Road? So my concerns are for the traffic on Smith Road. Thank you for hearing me out.
Next is Ronnie Natali.
Ronnie Natale, 2450 Coyote Run Road, Rockwall. I live with that lady that just walked away from here, if y'all didn't figure that out by now. I'll give you my emotional thoughts first, which I think we would all agree that we would love it if not another person moved to Rockwall County or another house was built. I would say that, but obviously that's not an option. We understood when we moved here 13, almost 14 years ago that it was inevitable. And our property does sit on the build line. There's a road that separates us, but we always knew at some point that would be developed. Our concern was the overdense populations such as Wood Creek and other areas, and I've done construction in DFW for the last almost 10 years, and I've seen lots of developments, and I've seen lots of neighborhoods getting built. I've seen lots of people get upset about it. I've seen lots of everything from eminent domain to roads to highways to residentials. Of course, no one's ever happy knowing that you're going to have a bunch of houses next to you. That's a given. But my logical brain tells me this, and I know for a fact what they're proposing to build here would be the absolute best possible scenario because it's coming inevitably. If I had my choice, I would say leave it a pasture. To Rita's point and to these other folks, I would say sure, but I know if I want to leave it a pasture, I need to go buy that 696 acres from whoever owns it. I can't do that. So all I can hope for is the best possible scenario. And I think everyone here kind of understands that. And to me, this is absolutely the best possible scenario. I don't think they're going to build a big park there. It's privately owned. The land value is too high. But knowing there's going to be some of that integrated and they're trying to make it fit the natural environment and they're doing everything they possibly can. I had seen some of this previously, but now hearing it specifically, if that is what they intend to build, I couldn't see any type of development that would supersede that. That would be a better choice. Of course, again, my emotions is none, leave it a pasture. And yes, the roadrunners leave our pasture, and we live on 12 acres. And we're going to be, almost our whole back of our property is sitting on their build line. This would be, to me, if I had a prayer of what they're going to build behind us, knowing without any reasonable doubt they're going to, and I too do lots of the things you do as well, just so you know. When we moved there, I joke and say, I stopped using indoor bathrooms and wearing clothes when we moved to where we live, but I do have some neighbors. Rita drives by and we're, anyway. My point here is, I've talked to my wife about this, and I said, I just pray they don't do a Wood Creek or apartments or whatever else back here. And I think the proposal that's in place, in my opinion, based on what I've seen in the construction and living where I live, I want to preserve it as much as possible. And we take a lot of ownership because we take care of our neighborhood, John and some of our neighbors. And so, in my opinion, my back door will stare at those houses. I have a tree line on a barbed wire fence that Rita spoke of. We're on the build line. So there's our property, a road, and the houses. So knowing there's at least 3/4 acres of lots, yes, I would love for it to be 1.5 acres. I know economically that's a much bigger pill to swallow. But again, in my opinion, I think they've addressed most of the things we were concerned of, the road, the drainage, they're going to use the silt lakes that's there. As long as those things are properly, addressed, which I'm assuming in the magnitude of this neighborhood and the cost of the homes and the cost of the city subsidizing some of the development and the schools, I would believe that that's all going to be addressed. And we don't have to worry about Section 8 and rental properties and people coming and moving out and then they turn into, not so nice neighborhoods. So again, that's my emotional side is leave us alone. My logical side is I believe this is the best possible scenario that we could have and we will live on that property line. That's all I got to say. I'm sorry if I made anybody upset, but that's just the way I feel, and I'm sitting right on it. So thank you.
Next is Don Connolly.
At this time, I'm not going to speak with my wife.
So Don does not want to speak, but his wife, Robin Connolly, will speak.
Hello. I just want to say, we are owners of lots 18 and 19 at the end of the cul-de-sac in Lydia.
If you wouldn't mind just stating your address.
We own lots 18 and 19
Okay.
at the end of Lydia Lane.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, there's no address. We don't have a home there. We bought the lots 30 years ago, and our plan is to build our retirement home soon. One of the reasons we bought the property was for the view. We are at the end of the cul-de-sac, but our property line on one of the, on the west side, it borders the new development. And so my concern is obviously the view and how close proximity that those houses will be to the border property line. If, obviously, if this happens, I don't have any control of that, but if there was a way to consider a larger space in between the property lines and the development and those houses that are going to butt up so that we do not have that house backyard view, that would be my request. So, thank you.
Next is Rodney Campbell.
My name is Rodney Campbell. I live at 2712 Lydia, next to Jerry. The name of our property are two streets called Royal View Estates. And when we lose that, what do we have? So the buffer zone that we're all talking about is probably the most sought after answer, but not getting any dialogue tonight. But if we don't get the buffer between the smaller lot developments and our noise-making and nudist ability, it's going to be a problem. The other thing that we have is the TIF, or the traffic impact study, or whatever you call it. I've never seen our 552 right now, 2-lane road. It is dangerously overpopulated. When you're trying to go to work in the morning and there's a problem on 66, on 30 or 66, we are the bypass currently. And that's without the school even being built because they lost their funding. But our traffic, you have to fishtail to get off your street to go east or west. Every morning coming home, and if there's any construction, like when the school first began, when they're moving construction equipment in and out, you don't have any flow. You have to stop, and there's no way to get around. So the project's probably going to happen, and like the other gentleman said, this could be the best possible outcome for a developing neighborhood. But our name is Royal View, and we want to keep that. We want to keep our freedom. We don't want to be a part of the city. We will support the city, but we don't need the city. So that's it.
Next is Jeff, who lives on Lone Star Trail. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your last name. Okay.
Jeff. And last name's Golzinski, 11954 Lone Star Trail. I didn't have anything to say before I got here, but I do now. I understand you can't stop progress. It's coming. Just for the record, I'm 100% against the project because I've got some concerns. There's definitely a difference between south of 552 and north of 552 when you talk about the size of the lots. South, you're pretty well developed. North, you've got a lot of open land. So when we talk about the real estate sizes and what the kind of metric is, it's an acre. I'm a little disappointed that you guys have proposed something that goes against that, because north of 552, you are getting much smaller land lots than what is up there now. The other part of this is the construction. It's great that it's a 14-year project. It sucks that it's a 14-year project. That's a lot of construction, a lot of dump trucks, a lot of just dislocation. And I don't know how that's going to get addressed. But like I said, 100% opposed to it. Looks beautiful, a lot of good grass. Lots are too small.
And then Scott Wilkinson, did you want to speak? Yes, sir. Okay.
Hello, Scott Wilkinson, 1228 Kennedy Court. part of the, I guess, we're in the very end of the corner of Wood Creek, and right now we have I guess the best of both worlds. We have the community with a beautiful land in the back with nothing back there. We knew that probably one day it wouldn't last. Great sunsets, but I guess, kind of what I'm worried about is how will the neighboring houses come up to our fence? Because right now, Country Lane in the map, it shows that it stops. It really doesn't stop. It actually keeps going. It turns into a dirt road. And it kind of divides our property versus the open land. So I don't know if, is the fence going to be right up on my property, or is there going to be an alleyway that kind of splits the Wood Creek, which kind of follows up with my next question. All this looks really great, but is it going to be accessible to everybody in Fate? I don't know if it's just going to be oh, this all sounds great, tell my kids there's going to be a play area, some lakes, and then we don't have access to it. So I imagine people that buy $1.5 million homes are not going to want it to be open to the public, so I don't know how that's going to look. Also, will our police and firefighters, are we going to have to increase that, develop new stations? Are we going to be able to support the new community coming in? What kind of impact that's going to have on the people that already live in Fate? Is it going to raise our taxes? And then really, I think the main concern too is traffic, just because of the bottlenecks that we do live in, given the 66 and the 30, and especially coming out of Wood Creek, there's really just two ways in. And it looks like, we might have access on, what was it, not Ben Payne, Prince Lane. So I don't know. I'm just kind of worried about again, kind of what everyone's talking about with the traffic and the bottlenecks, and right now it's already crazy. If you don't leave by 5 o'clock in the morning, you're going to be sitting in traffic, especially on the 66 or the 30. So I don't want to wake up any earlier than I have to, and that's not what I'm looking for. So I would like to see more emphasis on the traffic around. And one thing I do agree with the gentleman's over here is, again, I know that this is going to be developed eventually. I like the idea of keeping it kind of what their idea is in the sense of, the landscape and making it more natural versus apartments. I don't want apartments behind our house. I don't want stuff like that. So that's my only, I guess, pro for it. But again, there's a lot of unknown questions or answers. Thank you.
I have no other forums wanting to speak. Okay, David Kent.
David Kent. The property we have is 1025 Old Millwood Road, Rockwall. I came because my wife's family has a 300-acre ranch, which presently is on the east side of Crenshaw Lake, which is Phase 7 on this plan, so just north of 552. We abut 552 and Crenshaw Lake. And I wasn't going to say anything until I heard the comment about there is a distinct difference between the land south of 552 and the land north of 552. South of 552 is substantially developed. North of 552, we've got 300 acres. My sister-in-law has 20 acres that her house is on, and that's the nature of the family plan. We have the family has a development agreement with the City of Fate, because we're in the Fate ETJ area, which contemplates a minimum 5-acre development if we were ever going to develop anything there. And so the thought of 0.75 acres running up and down what would be the west side of our property is a significant difference there. And hearing everyone talk about the views from Coyote Run really reinforces all of that to me. I understand that because that's where our property is. So if there was going to be any adjustments to this plan, it would be good for the phases north of 552 to be much larger tracts of land, particularly since it's going to be an expensive, high-end area. So it sounds like they contemplate people will be able to afford larger lots, larger tracts of land, and that will be very marketable to the people they will be selling to the market they're selling to. So that's, I think, a valid concern and consideration for an adjustment to this request. Thank you.
Next we have, I can't read the handwriting, I think maybe it's Jennifer. Sorry. That's okay.
Okay, Jennifer Bennett, 11954 Lone Star Trail. I do also understand about development, and it is a nice-looking development, but north of 552, we have, where we are, it's 3 acres minimum. That's part of the regulations. And when you talk about, 0.75, 0.79, that's crazy. There's going to be over 100 houses crammed in this tiny little area off of Smith Road, which is a terrible road. And you're talking about also making our little 2-lane road into a 4-lane road. That's going to ruin that. It's going to make it like a highway going through our country neighborhood. Even our developed, nice country neighborhood does not need a highway running through it. And I don't know how you also do that with the blind curves that are on it. It's crazy, it's insane. It should be bigger lots. I can't speak for all of it. I care about north of 552, sorry. But that's what I care about, and I don't understand why there's other developments that are 3-acre minimums, why we aren't doing that, at least for part of this. It's too many houses. It's too many houses in too small of an area. And I feel like this is a baked deal. I feel like y'all have already decided. I feel like you don't really care what anybody here thinks. And so we're all here and we're going to say thank you that at least looks pretty, but we're all getting hosed. Thanks.
Okay, and next we have Jacob Flores.
Jacob Flores, 1224 Kennedy Court. We're on the south of 552. We're also against it, but yeah, it's what it is. We're also in agreement, so it makes sense. The question I'm concerned I really had was, I know that we're currently building on Ben Payne, they're getting that fixed up. It's still a very small road. And then the connection from it into 30, is there going to be a new exit that goes so we can go into Ben Payne? Because right now, 73, you exit, and then you go up, and then you can do a U-turn. But if everyone's going to be taking Ben Payne upwards from 30, everyone's going to be taking the same U-turn, which I don't know where y'all live, but traffic is atrocious. I drive into Dallas to work and back. So I'm a nurse. It sucks. Wife, same thing, 3 to 4 times a week. Just try not to make that drive any worse than it already is. I think the traffic concerns are one of my biggest ones. I mean, obviously, everyone else is going to get built, but the Ben Payne, it's already a narrow road. They are doing construction on it, and it's still only like 1 or 2 lanes. So, I mean, I think growing that out further from the exits from 30 may be more beneficial. Just building some more infrastructure for the influx of 460 new personnel families, because this is going to be a family development. As we know, it's a smaller lot. It looks beautiful. It's going to be a lot of families. So something to think about. And then maybe a junction, because it's going to be awful. Thank you.
I have no other forms wanting to speak.
So 8:15, we'll close the public hearing here, and now we can go into our discussion and try to answer some questions.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like, I took as detailed and copious notes as possible during all those public comments. I'd like to do my best to address as many of them as I can. Would that be okay with you?
Please and thank you.
Okay. And please forgive me. I will be as transparent. If I don't know the answer or if I have no control over something, I will let you know. Okay, starting with Mrs. Kaiser. She didn't really say anything that necessitated a response, so I'll move on. Kristen, forget the last name. Question about stoplight on 552. 552 is a TxDOT facility, as you know. They currently do have plans to widen it, and at certain intersections that trigger what's called signal warrants, meaning that there's a sufficient amount of traffic at the intersection, they will put it on their capital plan to install a stoplight or a traffic signal. For example, as we're looking at the construction of the high school, and we're extending Miss May Drive from its current terminus at Prince Lane up to get students from Fate to the high school, we're working with TxDOT to get a signal on that intersection there. So where North King Road and 552 meet, we're hoping to get a traffic signal there. If in due time, and if Ben Payne is a throughfare, what we call a collector road that serves greater traffic than just the neighborhood, we would expect that in due time in the future that TxDOT would look at that intersection and find, a trigger, basically a quantitative trigger to put in a signal. But the city of Fate has no control over that. We can talk to them about it, but ultimately TxDOT has their methodologies that they follow. The water easement question. If there is a recorded water easement recorded with the county, that would be reflected on the preliminary plat and would be protected. So there wouldn't be any encroachment into any recorded water easements. As far as taxes go, I mean, we don't manage the assessments of property. That's Rockwall County. These properties, I'm being very general here. These properties being higher end residential homes, less dense, they would bring more property value into the city. And then overall, it has the potential to have a beneficial impact. I can't guarantee that though, so I don't want to promise anything, but when you bring in higher end homes, they have a higher property assessment, which contributes more to the coffers of the city, providing more revenue for the services that we all expect. Moving on to Mr. Harrison. Yes, sir.
She also had a question on electricity power.
Oh, yes, thank you. It would be part of the what is that called? No, not farmers. It's part of the Encore system, but where you can kind of go and select your users. I believe it's part of the Power Share or Power Switch. Yeah, I believe that it's within the jurisdiction of that, I believe. So that would be my response to that. Mr. Harrison, so all of the property in the ETJ, there was a concern about annexation, statements about the Lydia Lane neighborhood being in the ETJ and there's being a deed restriction. I want to reassure the members, the residents on Lydia Lane, properties in the ETJ that are not subject to a non-development agreement cannot be annexed without the consent of the property owner. That's state law. It's not something that the city can override or chooses to or wants to override. So if you're in the ETJ and you don't currently have a non-development agreement, which serves as a voluntary annexation petition for the future, you will not, unless state law changes, there's no way that the city can compel annexation. Let's see. To the numerous comments about the size of the lots, we evaluated it based on the comprehensive plan and based upon what the applicant submitted. So it's really the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission to determine whether there's compatibility when you look at the proximity of Wood Creek and Montero with the smaller homes, and then to the north there's the larger homes. The compatibility thereof we did address to some degree in the presentation, and it'll be up to all of you to evaluate and decide upon. The floodplain, one of the conditions of approval was that a flood study needed to be submitted with the preliminary plat, which if the zoning is approved, the preliminary plat is that next step. The flood study will identify the full extent of the floodplain. Our flood standards are that the floodplain plus a 10-foot buffer are included in a floodplain easement, which is basically untouchable. And so that would be subject to an engineered flood study that would occur with the preliminary plat. Mrs. Lynch had a question about the fence. If, just a general sense, if there's a fence that encroaches on somebody else's property, it is their right to remove it. There is fencing standards in the plan development. It's not obligatory, but it does allow for higher quality fencing to be installed on any of the residential properties. As far as the wildlife goes, I completely sympathize, but that isn't a specific consideration. There are no specifically identified sensitive habitats that I'm aware of that are protected by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or anything like that. So it's not something that we decide, make our recommendation based on. Mrs. Natali, concerns about Smith Road safety. Currently, it's a 2-lane road that's relatively undersized with 2 90-degree turns. Condition number, I want to say number 3, was a requirement that they, if the project is approved, that they would have to improve North Smith Road to at least a 3-lane road, and depending on the TIA, it would determine the size of the road. They would also have to smooth out that double curve. So the concerns and safety issues that are currently in place on North Smith Road would be to some degree mitigated by the improvements that the developer would have to construct on North Smith Road. Allow me to finish this, and then the Planning and Zoning Commission would be able to continue to ask questions. Again, I'm trying to be as thorough as possible here. Entrances on 552 and North Smith Road. Among the various phases, they access off of North Smith Road. There are a couple accesses on 552, and then the internal roadway system provides other modes of circulation throughout the development. Mr. Natali, he had his statements, nothing I believe to request. Mrs. Connolly asked about the separation from the homes to their undeveloped property at the end of Lydia. Currently, the plan development includes a minimum 20-foot rear yard setback. However, given the size of the property, the placement of the homes is constrained by what those setbacks are. Again, what has been proposed is a 20-foot setback, which is similar to the residential estate zoning standards that are part of our regular zoning code. Similarly to Mr. Campbell's comment about a higher buffer, again, to reiterate, the setbacks proposed, front yard setback is 30 feet, side yard is 10 feet. That's generally within the development, and then there's a 20-foot rear yard setback as proposed in the plan development. I think I've tried to address 552. Signal warrant is what would trigger any signals on 552, most likely at Ben Payne in the future. TxDOT also, again, has plans to widen 552 at some point. I can't speak to where they are in that process. I know that funding is kind of the biggest constraint on that. Royal View, again, just to reiterate, if you're I think Royal View is on Lydia. We wouldn't annex anything that's in the ETJ that's not subject to a non-development agreement. Mr. Golzinski about the construction timeline, that's not something that the city can compel or control, but I understand your concerns there. Just one moment, please. Mr. Wilkinson had the question about the neighboring homes and how close they come up to the backyard. Once again, it's subject to the setbacks and also just the individual desires of the builder, where they want to place the home within the property. Mr. Joyce can maybe speak to that if so desired by the chair. Police and fire. Now, that's a good question, and I think it's a legitimate one. Part of what this project is going to do is actually build the infrastructure that the city probably wouldn't otherwise build for a very long time. If we're concerned about being able to access from 552 down to 30 without having to choke up 66, the Ben Payne Road extension that the project is proposing would create that connection and that access that the city is not in a position to build on our own with the funds that are available to us. So to some degree, you know, while it would introduce more homes and ultimately the schools, it does create a better trip distribution among the public road system than what the city is intending to build anytime soon. Again, I'm just trying to get through any of the questions that that I wrote down, and if the chair or members of the P&Z have additional questions or anything that I may have missed, I'll be happy to answer that. Okay, then finally, Mr. Flores had a really good question about Ben Payne Road. I can speak to that. So currently, if you drive down I-30, you can see the posts, you know, the large concrete pillars in the ground. There's going to be a new interchange at I-30 and Ben Payne Road. From what I understand, TxDOT's plan for completion is toward the end of 2027. As they're working on that, the city of Fayette is also looking at how we can improve Ben Payne between State Highway 66 and I-30. The city council has had recent discussions in a public forum about that, where we're hoping to partner with Rockwall County to share funding responsibilities for that project so that there would be a more efficient and safer access from 66 and any properties north of 66 along Ben Payne to be able to access I-30 without having to do that crazy Texas turnaround or go up 66 to get to 552. I think that mostly covered everything. If any members of the Planning and Zoning Commission have questions that they recalled from the audience or have questions of your own, I'm happy to take those now.
I just wanted to bring up a couple of more questions that I'm not sure if they were just missed or, you know, one of them was the timing for fixing North Smith Road, and I'm not sure if I missed it. I could have. Another question was about public access to the green and the property area that's the walking paths, things like that. Will there be public access? And the last question is probably more for the developer, but it's about, was there any thought for having larger lots on north of 552? So those are the only ones that I missed, and I might have missed some more, but that's
Okay,
what I got.
I can address the first two. I will leave the last one to the developer. So timing of fixing North Smith Road, part of that's going to be subject to the traffic impact analysis, okay? Part of that's also going to be the timing of those two phases, which are indicated as phases 6 and 7, so I would assume that those are later phases. So generally, again, public improvements go with the phase of development unless there's, you know, critical extension of like a water line. If it's not in phase 4, but it has to get to phase 1, then they're going to run the water line through there. So it really is aligned with the development timing as well as the TIA requirements. Public access, yeah, I'm sorry I missed that one, but that's a good question. According to the plan development, specific language in there, any open space other than the amenity center for the HOA is going to be dedicated as public space. So any of the trails, all the open space, again, other than the amenity center, are going to be open to the public. So those parks, any kind of, you know, nature play areas, they will be dedicated as public and owned by the city, but maintained by the HOA, kind of like what you have over here. You know, a lot of the open areas in some of these larger developments are maintained by the HOA, but the public can kind of still engage with them. So I hope that answers those first two questions.
Can you talk about the police station, the fire station planning? You addressed part of I think the question around that, but I think people were asking more if there's going to be additional fire or police stations needed based on the development.
Sure. Not specifically just based on this development. There's a long-range fire and police plan. We're currently designing a new police station up here on Tony Lane at 66. We're looking at renovating an existing building on the south side of town, past the Fresh, kind of as you go around the curve. We have a public works facility down there in the building in front where Fate Roofing was for a while. That's going to be renovated as a south side fire station. Recent renovations were done to the downtown fire station. We also own land at Ben Payne and 66 that we specifically purchased for both private development as well as the future location of another fire station. So we are going to be distributing the nodes for public safety around the city and not have it just concentrated in downtown. That's because we recognize the city's growing, it's getting bigger. It's currently, about 13 square miles. So we need to distribute that response or those facilities so that our response times are lower. So yeah, thank you for reiterating that question. We already have plans in place for future facilities. The timing of some of them is still to be determined. It just kind of funding, we had the public safety bond. That's what's building this new police station and some of the fire station renovations. Bought a new fire truck. So it's pacing out. It's all very expensive, and so it has to be paced out over time.
And then can you, I apologize to have to do this, but can you bring up the map again? I'm just like as someone who lives on the south side, I want to kind of understand kind of how all the roads interact and what's being improved, what's not, and kind of the timelines on those, whether developer, and then I know part of that is 552, which I believe some of it is like TxDOT. So we're just trying to help people understand the full picture of what's going on with the traffic there, because I mean, drive through that part of town quite a bit, but I do not live over there. So I was trying to get another kind of rundown.
I was going to bring up my map because it shows the regional context a little bit more explicitly. Thank you. Give me a moment to get to that map, please. It doesn't like PDFs, apparently. Let's learn for the future. So can you reiterate your question just to make sure I address it explicitly?
Yeah, as someone who doesn't live on that side of town, I'm trying to get a full picture of I know there's certain roads within the development that extend. I think Ben Payne was one of them, but can you kind of explain who's responsible for what as far as?
Sure.
Because I know 552 is being improved, but what's the timeline on that versus the other roads and kind of that are being extended and all of that?
Very good. I will do that in just a second. Okay, I know it's a little bit transparent, but it does kind of show the connection of those roadways. The developer will be on the hook for any of the city streets, okay? So Ben Payne Road, the extension of North Ben Payne up and into North Smith. The westward extension of Country Lane, North Country Lane, up to this point here. Now, this property, while it's being zoned, is not being developed. It's actually the Rockwall ISD is retaining ownership of this piece here. And so when they develop this land, they would have to create that connection. This North Country Road comes here and then loops around. So it does have a continuity, but it doesn't go all the way out to 3549 currently in this plan. Prince Lane will extend from its existing terminus here. We actually own this property right here, so part of the deal is that we would dedicate the right-of-way necessary to build that extension of Prince Lane through the city-owned property and up to this point, and then continuing on to North Ben Payne. And then, of course, all the interior roads will be built by the developer. 552 is not currently in the plan to be constructed by the developer. It's part of TxDOT's capital plan, and so they're responsible for that widening when they get the funding available.
I know you know what my follow-up question is probably going to be. Have they discussed it at all? Is there what stages are they at?
We ask on occasion because there are so many TxDOT facilities in town, and we're trying to figure out how they're all being juggled. 552, they're going in and doing utility relocations right now. I know some right-of-way has been acquired, but as far as the actual capital plan, like what they call the let date, I think that's not until at least 2030, but I'm not certain what that date is, so it's going to be a while.
Okay, thank you.
Board have any other questions? So any questions for the developer?
I think Autumn had a question for the developer.
Yes, if the developer wants to come back up. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I apologize. Hi, Ryan.
Hi.
One of the questions that were out, just to make sure everybody gets their questions heard. Was there ever a consideration for larger lots north of 552 as a gradient from the really small lots down towards Montera and Wood Creek, and then it kind of gradually goes up, just so you can address that if there's anything there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm more than happy to address that question, and then if you would allow me a few minutes after to address some of the other items that are pending as well. So anytime we look at a piece of property, we always try to figure out what all types of infrastructure are going to be required to service that property. That ends up with a number at the bottom and say, we have our east-west connections, we have our north-south connections, we have off-site water line that we have to bring in, and how does all that facilitate, or how is all that paid for in a manner which is not overburdensome to any one particular portion of the property? So in looking at that, is where we kind of got to the 3/4 to 1 acre home size. Now, not all of our lots are 3/4 of an acre. We do have several lots that are in excess of 1 acre within the development. So while we didn't look at 1.5-acre size lots, it's just not feasible to do given the amount of infrastructure that's required for the property overall as a whole. There has been a lot of talk about Smith Road, which is why we proposed to push it off to the east. Currently, the Collin County thoroughfare plan shows it coming down the existing Smith Road, upon which the Rockwall County thoroughfare plan shows it connecting up. And we all understand that roads are primarily built by developers. Anybody who listened to the last election cycle knows Rockwall County and what they're trying to do with roadways and how that's being facilitated. It's a very difficult process to get roads built, especially when they're county roads. And so by pushing that roadway off to the east, that does make it a developer-required road to be built. But we understand that's a process that has to be worked through with both Collin County, Rockwall County, the city of Fate. But also, we have a traffic impact analysis, TIA, that's going to tell us what the size of that road actually needs to be. Given the reduced density of this particular parcel of land and the density north of our property, it's very well quite possible that a 4-lane road is not even required. So with that TIA, we could then go to Collin County and say, hey, this TIA says a 2-lane road is required, not a 4-lane road, and reduce the size of that road. That is in a later stage of what we're doing, so we are looking at that in 10 to 12 years down the road before we do anything on the north side of 552. As far as the widening of 552, so the Rockwall County actually has the Rockwall County Roadway Consortium, which, depending upon who you talk to, sometimes they call it the Infrastructure Consortium. But the latest report, they actually had a meeting last night. So they have a meeting, I believe it's the second Wednesday of every month, maybe the third Wednesday of every month, which Fate is a partner in that and usually has representatives there. But the 552 widening, actually all the right-of-way was acquired in November of 2023. They anticipate utility relocates to be completed at the end of this year, and that roadway is slated to be ready to let by the end of 2026. Now, my understanding from previous consortium meetings, and I was out of town this week, so wasn't able to attend last night, but they anticipate that project actually being released sometime with funding from TxDOT in 2028. As far as the wildlife corridors go, that's why we pulled things back off the floodplain to preserve those areas. My house backs up to floodplain, and we see coyotes in our backyard quite often. But they travel those corridors. So those are key travel corridors for native wildlife. And so that's why we are preserving those areas, not just to the floodplain lines, but even pulling back further off of there just to preserve that habitat. Mr. Wells mentioned about the amenities, but basically anything with a door will be private. So whether that's clubhouses, amenity centers, because of insurance requirement, any types of swimming pools or anything like that has to be gated and access controlled, as well as any type of interior structure has to be access controlled. So because the HOA has to maintain it, so we know who's going in and out of that. All the trails, the open spaces, the public areas will all be open to all residents within the city of Fate. As far as stoplights and turn lanes, those will all be dictated by our traffic impact analysis. We're held to that. We have to do whatever that says. So whatever the neighborhood needs, that's what we'll be putting in. There was a question about some fencing. So our fence requirements do not allow any type of wood fencing anywhere in the neighborhood. It'll all be open fencing, so it'll all be wrought iron or tubular steel style fencing. The perimeter tree lines, it's our intention to leave all the perimeter tree lines in place because we do understand that's a natural vegetative buffer between existing properties. That's been there for a long time, and so we understand that privacy is important, apparently especially to several members or several people here tonight. We like to keep that and keep that perimeter screening that's existing already because it's been growing there for a long time. I think that's all the notes that I had that were prudent that I wanted to kind of address, but still open to any other questions you may have.
Microphone. Without creating a lot of issues and and stay within our legal boundaries here. Certainly want to make sure everybody did get their questions answered. Cannot open up the public hearing again, but I would probably ask those that feel that they may not have gotten their question answered to submit to Ryan and then between Ryan and.
Mr. Chair, you're indicating like a follow-up email, like email to me? Yeah, that, absolutely, yeah. And I'll make myself available after the meeting. No matter what happens here,
Okay.
I'll make myself available after the meeting. I'll give out my email address, and anybody can contact me after the meeting.
Okay, didn't want to put you on the spot.
No, that's my job. It's okay.
Okay, great. So, but you could work together and just try to give, everybody be able to answer their questions for them.
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And thank you for your service to the city of Fate. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion amongst the board?
I want to kind of talk about something here. Never feel like coming here and we're not going to listen to you, just because we do hear what you say. And I agree that this is a contentious subject because of kind of how everybody feels about growth right now and everything else. But I also do remain cognizant of kind of what's going down at the state level. And 100%, I would love to see greenery everywhere. But at the same time, I also have to recognize that something's going to get built there. And I would 100% much more be happier with 3/4 acre, 1 acre lots with a lot of green space, as opposed to it being a high-density tract home neighborhood that, who knows, in a couple of years, we might not be able to deny. So it's a tough position, and I recognize kind of the feelings here. So I kind of wanted to put that out there, so.
I want to echo some of what Autumn said, but I want to thank everybody. This is like one of the first times I've been to a Fate public meeting where there was a wide diversity of different types of opinions. So I appreciate you guys sharing and lots of humor too. So I appreciate that. It makes it a little more fun, but thank you guys for coming out. We do hear you. And kind of how like P&Z works for those who don't know. We get the development information at the same time as you do, and we have about 3 or 4 days to kind of prepare for our questions, and are kind of thinking through things at the same time as you. All volunteer boards at the City of Fate. We all have day jobs or retired or have families, and so we have an interest in the community just the same as you. Thank you.
All right. So with that, we'll consider taking a motion or any action.
I'll make a motion that we approve zoning request 25-012.
I'll second.
Do we need to
Point of
identify?
clarity with recommended conditions?
I apologize. I want to amend my motion. Is that what I say? No, yeah, okay. I want to amend my motion to approve case ZR 25-012 with the staff recommended conditions.
I will second the amended motion.
Motion passes.
Next will be agenda item number 5, Director of Planning and Development Services report announcements pertaining to city activities, upcoming events, future legislative activities, and other matters related thereto.
We'll give everybody a moment to disperse here. We do have a couple things we want to share this evening. I do want to thank everybody again for coming out. This was a very well-attended hearing. Appreciate everybody taking the time to voice their questions and concerns. So just really briefly, I do want to reiterate my availability to you. I know some of you have been here a while. You kind of know the ropes. Some of you are pretty new. If you ever want to meet with me one-on-one to ask questions, if you're curious about things that are going on with development, if you're curious about policy or process, just send me an email, give me a call. I'll be happy to set up a one-on-one meeting with any of you if we can align our schedules. I also want to reiterate that I did send out a training opportunity for you that NCT COG is putting on, I think in June. Tammy did take me up on that, and so I got her registered. All expenses will be covered. I'll send the email one more time just to kind of remind you of those times and dates. But that will be something that we'd love to help you participate in if you want. And finally, this is kind of a sad moment for me, I got to say. I'm going to try to be strong here. This is Robbie Highfield's last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Curse you, Robbie.
Wait, just wait. He's leaving me after 5 years, leaving me. I'm joking. I'm very happy for him because Robbie is going to be moving on as of after next Friday, to join the Maui County Parks Department as a park planner on the island of Maui. Not as nice as North Texas, but what can I say? And with that, I'd like to give Robbie a moment to say a few words if he'd like.
Yeah. Thank you for the very kind words, Ryan. It's been a great 5 years. You've been very influential in my young career, so thank you very much. To the commission, it's been great working with you guys. Some of you longer than others. Carrie, I believe you've been here pretty much since day one. So it's been very good to go these 5 years with you. I wish you all the best. And I think we have a great board in front of us to carry on Fate, and you guys are going to do some great things. So I'm going to miss you all. if you take a vacation out to Maui, I'll scope out all the good spots and we can meet up for lunch or something. So thank you very much.
Yeah, Robbie, it truly has been a pleasure. And I mean, from the first night that you had to, do a presentation to where you're at today, man, you have grown.
Well, we can not talk about how that first presentation went, but yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Very, very, very happy for you. I'm still going to tell you, I got better coffee than what they got in Hawaii, so.
Well, I'll just have to order some. You ship to Hawaii, right?
He'll take it personally to you.
With that, does the board have anything to share or discuss?
Thank you for your services, City of Fate, Robbie, and you're about to have a lot more fun out there.
And at the same token, Robbie, you know how I feel about you. I mean, 2 years, I know he's got 5 years on me, right? I've only been around for 2 years, and the last couple of months, all I've been telling you is, where did you come from? Like, all of a sudden, like, you just found your groove, and unfortunately, I'm mad that your groove is going to Maui now. So, I'm just saying, I'm in Ryan's court of being angry, but good luck.
Well, if we don't have anything else, it is 8:52. Meeting's done. We got to vote.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Yes, I was. Motion passes. Now it is 8:52 and we're done.